Hello, everybody. Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and we are here today to rank every character from season 2 of Game of Thrones. And of course, we will be joined by Tyler Calvert, my co host for all Game of Thrones reactions here on the channel. But I thought I would come on out and do. Ooh, my hair is a mess, child. I'm sitting here falling in my face. Uh, I thought I would come out here and just do my little channel intro, get everybody hyped, get everybody ready, and let y'all know we have 57 characters to get through in this ranking. So it should be a fun time. Let's hope. And we do have Leo here in the chat, our great friend, Geekly Goods, who will be moderating the chat for anybody that is joining us. So as we have on display on the screen, pinned message, no spoilers. We are only discussing season 2 today. So please don't comment on any future seasons 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. None of it. Where they end up, who your favorite character overall in the show is by the end of the seasons. We're trying to keep this as clean cut for Tyler, who has not actually watched the show before. We are a noob and a fan reacting here. So, perfect. I also am like, this is only my second ever live, and this is going to be my first live with somebody else. So figuring out how to add somebody. Okay, never mind. It's actually easier than I thought it was. I thought adding someone to the stream was going to be a mess, but it's easy. So drum roll as we invite on our co-host and get to this intense ranking. So let's add Tyler, hopefully.
Hello.
Yes, there it is. Okay, it works.
Amazing.
Yay, StreamYard.
Yeah,
it worked
StreamYard,
out.
right? Amazing. I see already the thing about the no spoilers for future seasons. Thanks, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, no spoilers. Thanks for coming on and doing a live stream version of our ranking this time around, Tyler.
Yeah, I figured it might work a little bit better and it wouldn't take as long. I mean, that's the hopeful, I guess, aspect of it all. But I mean, if it does take long, just because there are so many characters in Game of Thrones in general. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, especially with the live audience. I think like that would also just make it more fun in general.
Yeah, so if you are curious to how we felt about the characters after season 1, we do have a full ranking up already with timestamps. I know that runtime is intimidating, but if you want to skip ahead, you can do so.
Exactly.
Ryan, we are on season 2 of Game of Thrones for this ranking. So, all right, let's go ahead. As we said, we got 57 folks to get through.
Oh, man.
So let's hit it. Just for the format of our ranking, just so you all know, Tyler and I both ranked all 57 separately and then combined them for our average score. And that's how we came up with this ranking. So it's an average ranking between the two of us. Now, coming in at number 57.
Oh man, 57.
Yeah. So coming in at number 57 is one of the characters we both agreed on, and that is Joffrey Baratheon. Dead last yet again. He was also dead last for our season 1 ranking, which also included Alyssa, and he's last again. So Tyler, why do you have Joffrey last?
I feel like I don't need to explain that if I'm being honest. Like I feel like there's never going to be a debate on like why would I have him as my least favorite character of Game of Thrones. But just to answer the question, I mean, he's just the cruel, spoiled, rotten brat of a character that I feel like I feel like you're supposed to hate him, which, I mean, I guess makes sense. You know, the writing behind him, I mean, it's in that sense, they do a great job because I don't like him at all. So, yeah, I mean, just thinking of everything he did in season two, I mean, you're talking about, like, I mean, I guess you want to like latch on from the end of season one. You know, he did cut off Ned Stark's head, cause a lot of problems to the when it comes to King's Landing. He's just also just a very terrible leader in general who just doesn't care about his people, and they clearly have shown their disdain for him because of it. Stuff with Sansa as well. I mean, he was very abusive to Sansa physically and mentally. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on for why I don't like Joffrey, but I feel like that at least encompasses a decent amount of my disdain and my dislike for the character.
Yeah, Joffrey, just highlights of his treachery in season two. He abuses, or has Roz abuse her fellow prostitute in the season. He has Sir Meryn Trant beat Sansa and start like stripping her in the middle of the throne room. He pieces out on his war, says, "I don't care what y'all do, I'm out of here." In episode 9, he's wretched, and
Yeah.
just as bad, maybe even worse in season 2 than he was in season 1. I don't know. It's hard to top beheading Ned and then like forcing Sansa to look, but he was pretty
Yeah,
terrible.
especially since Ned was like one of my favorite characters from season one, so I've still just a little bit difficult to,
Yeah.
I guess, process.
Well, then we have a tie for numbers 55 and 56
Oh, do
between,
we?
yeah, Theon Greyjoy and Craster coming in at a tie. I think we just had them swapped between our 55 and 56.
I mean, the bottom three is the bottom three, no matter which one you swap between the two.
Yeah, so Craster, I think, is only in 2 episodes of the season, but he makes quite an impact on how horrible he is. So
I'd say.
why'd you hate Craster so much, Tyler?
I mean, he's just like a terrible individual in general, just very gross. And the way that he treats people in general, especially, I guess, his daughter slash wives in that whole situation. So, yeah, I guess, he's just not a very likable guy. And you're not, I just can't. I was happy to see what ends up inevitably happening to him. So, I'm glad that situation got eventually sorted out. But at least in what we saw in the season, just very dislikable. I mean, just a very unlikable character. I wasn't like a big fan of the stuff involving the Night's Watch in season 2 in general, but like his character just made it like all of the more worse. I feel just because he was such a terrible person.
Yeah, he's like feeding his babies to White Walkers in the forest, his baby boys, out here marrying his own freaking daughters. He's vile. A very minor character in the season, but one that really leaves a stamp in the yuck factor.
I know, yeah.
And then we move over to a character who had a lot of screen time this season. Actually, one of our more main characters of season 2, I'd argue, Theon Greyjoy. And the character that had the biggest nosedive. On our season 1 ranking, Theon almost broke our top 10. He was in a tie for 11th on our character ranking.
It hurt watching what happened after liking him so much in season 1.
He's a fun character. He's like a little bit naughty, flirting with Roz, but he's fun. He's kind of a reprieve for sure. And then season 2, it just is a nosedive. Trying to impress his father. He betrays the Stark family, takes over Winterfell, and is a horrible leader of Winterfell. It leads to several characters who do nothing wrong getting murdered for no reason, kills a couple of kids in the process and burns their bodies, pretending that they're Rickon and Bran. It just is wretched. So overall thoughts on the downfall of Theon Greyjoy for season 2.
Yeah, I think you summed up a large portion of why I didn't like him very much, just because, I was such a bad arc for him in the sense he was such a great character in the first season, and then he just throws away his, I guess if you call it friendship, his
Yeah.
loyalty to the Starks who took him in and betrayed them for his family who didn't even really want him to begin with. And then he like wants to get their approval by doing all these terrible things when it comes to betraying the Starks and then making it seem like he murdered Bran and Rickon and then actually murdering people in the process and just doing a terrible job at
Yeah.
running Winterfell. Yeah, so it's unfortunate because of how much I did like him in season 2. Though it's just like a complete reversal. I went from liking him a whole lot, and now he's like one of my least favorite characters. But things that just goes to show you how fast things can change in Game of Thrones, I guess.
Yeah, so Ryan O'Toole says Theon, hated him in season 2. And
Understandable.
Leo, fall from grace. Damn, yeah, it was a big fall from grace. But moving right along, at number 54, we have another Greyjoy, Lord Balon Greyjoy, another minor character in the full scheme of season 2. But why was his father so low for you, Tyler?
I feel like it comes to the same kind of thing when it comes to Theon and Craster, I guess, in a sense. It's just they're just not very likable people. Like, they're obviously very despicable people, and even when Theon tries to come back and kind of tries to like rectify the situation and try to like, I guess, regain his family back, he just like insults him the whole time. And he was another just terrible individual. And he never really has any. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities, even though he clearly like favors Yara and everyone else more than his own son.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably why.
Yeah, Balon is kind of the reason that Theon does what he does. One, trying to impress Balon Greyjoy, who is just terrible. And then two, he doesn't accept Rob's offer and says, you know what, actually, since the Starks aren't around, let's go ahead and invade. So
he throws it right into the fire, right?
Yeah, so Balon Greyjoy is pretty much the whole reason Theon turns as terrible as he does. Now, Theon takes it a couple steps further in what he does, but Balon is terrible. Terrible old man.
Absolutely. There seems to be a lot of those in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I think Ryan said it earlier. They have the worst characters in Game of Thrones ever.
Probably, at least at this point.
Well, then, at number 53, we have Xaro Zoan Doxos. So the man who tries to swindle, and he presents himself as a good guy to start with, lets her in, cuts himself to vouch for her, and then psych, he lies, tries to get her to marry him, and finds himself locked up in his empty vault by the end of the season.
As he should.
So, how did Leo just say Leo, he was he's one of the only black people in season 2, Leo. And he gets himself locked up.
Yeah, so far in Game of Thrones, there really isn't a whole lot of
it's him and the pirate
representation. Yeah, both characters are not really great individuals. So it's just like,
yeah, we didn't include the pirate in our ranking though, but Xaro played a pretty big role at least. So
the pirate's motivations weren't the greatest, so he probably would have been towards the bottom too. He just wanted to go there and like assault Cersei, basically.
Yeah. So how come you had Xaro so low in your list?
I think he also, just in the same vein, was just a very like slimy kind of character. He came across at least trying to seem like he was a nice individual, and then ended up not being one. It seems like that seems to be the case for a lot of people that try to come in and speak to Daenerys. Yeah, just the double cross of it all, and the fact he was broke in the end anyway. So I mean, he got his comeuppance, thankfully, but. Yeah, a lot of those people in Qatar just weren't really that great in general.
Yeah, Karth, it looked beautiful, but
Karth, sorry.
Full of wretched people, and one of them was Xaro. So an ultimate swindler, but much like everybody else in Karth, at the very least, seemed to get their due by the end of the season. So
pretty much, thankfully, yeah.
Now he can live out the rest of his days locked up in some chamber that nobody else has the key for.
Yeah,
so
him and the woman that betrayed Daenerys. They're both in there. That's what they get, I guess.
So then, coming in at number 51 and 52, we have our second tie of the countdown. We have plenty of them. So, keeping in line with the Karth storyline, we have Pyat Pri, the warlock, who also betrays, though he doesn't quite betray Daenerys as much because he doesn't really try to like be her friend, but he
No.
does steal her dragons and hold them hostage and try to chain Daenerys up and keep her hostage in the House of the Undying.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, I feel.
Yeah, so how do you feel about Pyat Pri, the
I
warlock?
mean, I mean, he was also another just despicable character, but I guess like as you said, like his motivations were never like positive to begin with. So you
Yeah.
kind of just knew he was going to be bad. I mean, he's a creepy looking guy. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, he just exudes creepiness when he's on the screen. Yeah, I mean, just a
I
very
think we're going to
nefarious
see a lot of
character.
this in the comment section with Leo and Ryan. Who?
Uh,
And
oh
then
yeah,
Ryan put the question mark, but you got it, Ryan. It is the bald dude who locks the dragons.
yeah. I guess that's the unfortunate thing about the live aspect is we don't have the visual aids
Yeah,
to.
I don't have my little
You should
card
have got. You
here.
should have. Yeah, you should have got like a cutout of some of these
Cut out
people.
and hold it up.
Yeah,
But yeah, Pyat Pri also got what he had coming to him, and them little baby dragons found their fire within and burnt him to a crisp.
yeah. I mean, he had his whole nefarious plan of just like chaining her up forever and all that stuff. Just, ugh.
And he is our first dead, like certifiably dead. I know
I
Tyler
mean,
laughed at me when I said Zaro is just locked away.
I mean, he's dead. Like, I mean, come on. Like, he's like, if you get locked away in a chamber like that with no key, like you're gonna die eventually. Like, you're dead eventually.
But Pyat Pri, done. X, dead, never to return. And then also tied for number 51 is a more recognizable character. We have Lord Peter Baelish, aka Littlefinger, whose average was greatly hurt from Alyssa not being part of the equation.
Yeah, I did notice that.
He fell pretty hard. So why was Littlefinger still so low for you in season 2, Tyler?
I mean, did he do anything in season 2 you feel that would have warranted him being like a better character in a certain sense? Like, would I like Peter Baelish more but by any of his actions in season 2? Because I feel like he was just as bad, if not worse, in season 2 as he was in season 1. So I feel like that's why I have to keep him so low because I just don't. I never liked him anyway. Like if you watch the first ranking, the season 1 ranking, I didn't like him at all. You know, the ranking, the only reason he was so high up is because of the average aspect. So, and like I said, I think he has to stay up there. I mean, or down there, I should say. You know, up, down in the bottom until otherwise he proves me wrong.
Yeah, Peter Baelish this season, he did when he did pop up, he was like threatening Roz's life in this
Yeah,
horrible scene after she watched children being murdered right before her eyes. And then we have him going to Catelyn and like making a pass at her, like over her husband's dead bones that he's bringing her. I mean, it just
no shame whatsoever.
like
Like because you obviously we know watching the show how much he was really into Catelyn because he's made it clear very, very often. It seems like. So, you know, that and the creepy stuff with Sansa later on.
And then he starts like creeping in towards Sansa by the end of season 2.
Yeah.
Leo says bum ass Baelish. I mean, yeah.
That's a good name. That's a good title for him.
So sorry, Peter, you're still in the bottom parts of the ranking. Also, still low in our ranking, coming in at number 50 is Cersei Lannister.
Well, yeah.
So, I have to say, I don't know if Cersei would have been so low for us if this ranking had stopped at episode 8, because she kind of had some good moments at the beginning of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
She had some human moments with like Sansa. She had a human moment with Tyrion where she admitted that that she knows Joffrey is absolutely wretched. And then and then episode 9 comes and she is horrible.
Once she got a little bit of wine in her, and she was in that little dungeon or whatever they were entering the Battle of Blackwater. It was
Just
like,
torturing Sansa mentally in the Battle of Blackwater. She was and then episode 10, she is no better. She is still side-eyeing people, just wretched in her behavior. Maybe the worst she has ever been outside of killing Sansa's wolf, and then that moment with Ned in season 1. Episode 9 and 10, I mean, she is some of the most outwardly horrible she's ever been. So, Tyler,
yeah,
your
that's
thoughts on
true.
Cersei?
I mean, I kind of agree almost wholeheartedly with what you said. I mean, even agreeing with the fact that like she did have some,
Yeah,
I guess you could say humorous, human moments, humorous and human
yeah,
moments. And as you said, also, I mean, if it was like episode 8, like maybe she would have been a lot higher because like episode 9 is when she got really bad. But it's one of those interesting things about Cersei is the fact that like she obviously is like a very villainous, evil woman in the shows, but like her brand of evil at least is like for the most part entertaining at least,
yeah.
or at least like I guess because you and I especially we enjoy the kind of shady comments, so I guess that's part of why I enjoy her kind of side eyeing and shading and just the lack of caring she has for certain individuals that we see in certain episodes. Maybe she can have a change of heart. I don't see it, but maybe it could be a flow. Just like between season 1, season 2, Theon Greyjoy went from one of the people I really like to one of the people I really hate. So maybe there's a character change for Cersei. Maybe she has a change of heart. Wishful thinking, but I doubt it. But
Yeah, Leo says y'all got Cersei way too low. She's just so yuck that it's entertaining. And then Ryan says, I did like when she slapped Joffrey in the face. She is one of 2 people that straight up smacked Joffrey across the face. Cersei and Tyrion both whopped him.
I mean, I do appreciate those. I will appreciate those moments when they do come.
Yeah, she's definitely a more complex and interesting villain than Joffrey. Joffrey is just like straight, like petulant, vile, yuck all the time. Cersei at least straddles that line to where she's funny, she's entertaining, she's cunning, but she's still terrible.
I know, but a lot of the Lannisters are though, except for Tyrion. I feel.
Yeah. Well, moving right along at number 49, we have Grandmeister Pycelle. So Pycelle, this season's main thing was Pycelle v. Tyrion. When he ended up being the snitch and getting himself thrown in jail.
Cut his beard off.
And then we see him again where he's just standing over Tyrion after the Battle of Blackwater, rubbing it in that he's now free and Tyrion has been demoted to this tiny little room.
A mess.
So, yeah, any thoughts on Pycelle this season?
Yeah, I think you summed up a lot of how I felt anyway. I mean, he didn't really do that much anyway. But I didn't. I mean, he's just such like it's interesting, but like seeing his character because he's like he's such a weird individual because of the fact that he's clearly like very shady in the sense that he's already been faking like his old manness, and then he's also on top of that like a snitch. Yeah. So I don't know where the rest of his future holds, but I mean. It was nice to see him get his comeuppance at least for a brief time when Tyrion kind of sent it and Bronn and them sent him away.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh, and he's always with prostitutes. I'm like, I feel so bad for those women. Ugh. But yeah, Leo says Pycelle is just cringe as hell.
Honestly,
at least they remembered Pycelle. Ryan says Pycelle. Wow, that guy, I hate him so much too.
I mean, yeah. I'm glad that other people agree as well because he's gross old man. Like I said, there's like a list of gross old men in Game of Thrones. You could have your own separate ranking of like gross old men.
All right, so moving to number 48, get prepared to type in who in the comments section.
Oh God, again with this.
Coming in at number 48, we have Dagmar Cleftjaw. So this was basically Theon Greyjoy's right-hand man. He's part of the crew that Theon takes to take over Winterfell, and he's actually the one that kind of convinces Theon to do more than what his father told him, which was just take over that little fishing village, and then Theon goes and takes over Winterfell. But probably the reason he ended up as low as he did was because of episode 10, when, for no reason at all, He
Just stabs
stabs
him
and kills Maester Lewin for
for no,
no reason.
just because he ran up on him. He just felt like stabbing him.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that was the most memorable thing that Dagmar Cleftjaw did. He was in like half of the season with Theon, but it's that last episode when he just kills Maester Lewin for nothing that made him that low.
Yeah, I mean that's. I feel like that is kind of like why I didn't like him that much. I mean, I gotta admit, like he has a really badass name. Like
Yeah.
of all of these like fantasy names I've become more accustomed to in Game of Thrones, like Dagmar Cleftjaw is just a very badass name in my opinion.
So Ryan remembered him after a little bit because he first said who, but then he says the actor has appeared in movies like The Witch. I
Yeah,
did
he's the
not
dad. Yeah,
I didn't even put that together till you just said it. So we have both of the parents from The Witch are Game of Thrones actors then, huh? All right, there you go.
yeah. I mean, I did know, but I didn't mention it because I
I
figured
didn't
people would be
even
like,
think of
eh,
it. Like
yeah.
Lysa, I knew immediately, but him, I guess he was so minor in the show, I didn't even think about it. So there you go. All right, moving right along, we have another minor character of season 2. At number 47, we have Janice Slint, who was implemented as one of the King's Guard, the Gold Cloaks, in season 1. He was just barely there in season 1, though. And then in season 2, he has more of a prominent role as he leads the Gold Cloaks out to kill all of Robert's bastards. We see him actually kill that baby after the other guy didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And his most memorable scene, though, is when Tyrion played the hell out of him too and said,
Sent him away, basically.
"You have no honor. You betrayed Ned Stark. I already knew you were a mess," and sent his ass to the wall.
And I'm glad that he did.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Janus? He didn't have much this season.
No, I mean, I hope we never see him again. I guess maybe we will, just because of we do get the storyline with the Night's Watch and all that. I figure maybe eventually we'll cross paths with him again. Just we'll see, I guess, in the future. But yeah. So just good for Tyrion for sending him away.
Well, then, moving on to number 46, we are heading back to Karth with the Spice King, Tyler's fave character.
He's just so annoying.
So, this might be surprising. You had him definitely much lower than I did on my ranking. I think I
Not
had
too
him
much.
I had him like in the 30s, and you had him down around like the 50s. So it evened out to the middle of the 40s. But the Spice King was very shady to Daenerys all season long. Didn't want to let her into
Yeah,
Car.
yeah. He was ready to just let him just die in the desert. We're gonna let him in.
Yeah, he just kept having these like shady ass like remarks with her. And then he ends up getting killed because he and
Thankfully.
the rest of the 13 are betrayed by Pirate Pre and Zarozon Daxos. So the warlock multiplies and kills them all in the final moments of his life. So Tyler, I know you were dying. That's what I loved about our reactions. Every time the Spice King came on the screen, you had a very negative reaction.
Because he's just such an over the top flamboyant like angry just character, like I guess, like because he was really just adamant about like making, I guess, everyone, but specifically Daenerys's path to success as difficult as possible at every turn. So it was actually quite satisfying to see him taken out, at least eventually. I mean, I wish Daenerys had been the one that did it, but I guess good for was Pyatt Pre, I say.
Good
I don't
job.
know.
The one thing you did right, Pyatt.
Yeah, I guess that's why. I guess that's like the one positive I guess I could give Pyatt Pre, is that he took him out.
All right, so coming in at number 45, we have another character who didn't do all that much, but was around quite a bit. We have Lord Roose Bolton, who obviously was part of Rob's army. But in season 2, he doesn't do all that much. He talks
Oh
a lot
no.
to Lord Karstark about Karstark getting his revenge. He also is the one who lets Rob know that Theon has taken the North and is sending over his bastard son to try to take it back for Rob. But he kind of like side eyes freaking Talisa a lot this season. It's really
Yeah.
weird, actually. Every time she's around, he like gives her weird looks. But yeah, so how do you feel about Roose Bolton in season 2, Tyler?
Well, yeah, I guess it's no secret that we have at least seen the infamous moment because we posted about it on social media. So I mean,
Yeah,
people do know that you, Sean Chandler, and I have watched it.
yeah.
At least see if we're talking season 2, I guess whatever. He was one of the characters, the minor characters that I wasn't like a big fan of. Like I definitely think he's going to suffer a bit in the ranking for season 3 for obvious reasons. But yeah, at least in season 2, yeah, I mean he sucks, but he
Yeah.
sucks more next season.
Right. Well, moving right along at number 44, we have his buddy, Lord Rickard Karstark, who basically is in this season just angry, just
Yeah,
constantly mad.
his
Uh,
constant mood basically of the season was I want to kill people.
he keeps that moving into season 3 as well. That's basically his
Yeah,
character through the entire time we know him.
you gotta
But
respect it, I guess.
his son gets killed by Jaime Lannister because he's a guard of Jaime in the prison. And when Catelyn makes that move to let Jaime free, he is pissed. So the first time Jaime gets out, he's mad and wants to just kill Jaime right then and there. But Brienne kind of checks him real quick, and then and then he spends the rest of the season just mad and wanting revenge. So, how did you feel about Lord Karstark?
I mean, like I think we summed up his feelings in general. Just revenge. He wanted revenge, and that was this whole goal. No matter what they did, he wanted revenge.
Yeah.
So, I understood it. I mean, it's not like I don't understand why he wanted revenge, but it ended up being, I guess, his downfall. But at least he was consistent with his feelings. He didn't. It didn't. At least he never strayed away from what he really wanted.
So then coming in at number 43, we have Lancel Lannister, who is assigned as a frickin' a guard for Joffrey this season, thanks to Cersei, but then gets owned, like a lot of characters did, by Tyrion Lannister. Another one who Tyrion just owns. And Tyrion recruits him, makes him grovel and cry, and becomes Tyrion's little spy for the rest of the season.
Rightfully so.
So how'd you feel about Lancel?
I mean, he's he's probably like the most insignificant Lannister, I feel, at least of the ones that we've seen. Because like he's just such like a nothing character for the most part. I mean, season 1, he was basically just relegated to like wine boy for Robert Baratheon. And I guess also he was sleeping around with Cersei because Jaime wasn't around anymore, and that was kind of like his whole character. I guess his character is arguably better in season 2, just because he has a little bit more to do, just because he's been slapped around by Tyrion to kind of be like his lackey. But I mean, at least it was nice. I guess it was noble of him to at least try and fight in the Battle of Blackwater, even though he got shot with an arrow and then just left.
Yeah, and he tried to like get Joffrey to stay too, so at least he was doing that. That led to him getting like literally bodied by Cersei, though. She like bodied this.
Didn't even care that he was shot with an arrow.
Like it was. So yeah, Lancel, do your thing, homie. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. Poor guy can't win for losing.
But then at number 41, we have a tie for 41 and 42.
Oh, really?
Starting off with the Mountain, another character who didn't have much to do, but a character that we hear so much about all the time, though. Like, it's always like, oh, the Mountain was off, like, burning this village alive.
Yeah,
the Mountain returning.
Based on like every time you hear a story about this guy, like I want to see that. Like, can we see that happen? Like, I want to see that. Like, show us what him burning down a town or something. That sounds cool.
Yeah, so we see him very briefly in Harrenhal. He's one of the people kind of like bringing in the torture at the first time, and then we see him with Tywin and Arya for a hot sec.
You had to remind me he was recast. I was like, who the heck is this guy? I was like,
a brand new actor for the Mountain.
The new Mountain. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a terrible person. I don't think there's much else to say about the Mountain this season. He didn't do much.
Yeah.
He's just
Well, that's the
horrible,
thing.
always.
Well, that's the thing. He seems like he's going to be an interesting character just because, like, I mean, with a name like the Mountain and what we've seen and what we've heard, I guess, mostly, he's pretty, he does some fun stuff. It's just we don't get to see any of it. So hopefully, as the seasons progress, maybe we'll get to see some of these cool things of the Mountain and his escapades.
Yeah, Leo says, LOL, that budget said, nah, we're just going to mention it.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I said that many a times through some of the reactions where they just
Yeah,
like were like what was it the battle the previous season where Tyrion?
yeah.
Well, no, yeah, for Tyrion, like a lot of Tyrion stuff, but most of Tyrion stuff's kind of off screen. So that's why I was surprised when he actually went into the Battle of Blackwater and we actually saw him
I
actually
know.
interact in the battle after we see him get clonked and then the battle's over, stuff like that. So
The entire budget for season 2 went to episode 9 and the dragons, the little dragons. That was the full budget of season 2.
absolutely, 100%.
But then, tied with the Mountain for number 41, we have Jamie Lannister. So there you go, Leo. You were wondering where he would end up for season 2. Well, he's at number 41. So Jamie actually had a bit of a minor role in season 2. I think
Yeah.
it took us like 4 or 5 episodes before we even see him again.
Hmm.
Um, and when we do, he's just kind of locked up.
He's a
But then
prisoner for
then he like kills his poor cousin who idolizes him. Um,
straight up. Straight up, no
kill,
mercy.
kills the Stark boy, who obviously sets Rickard Stark off into like madness for the rest of his time. Escapes, comes back, insults Catelyn, like teases her about Ned being dead, Ned not being honorable and going out on her, and how she treats Jon Snow. I mean, he just like and then starts roasting Brienne. Is like stunned that that's a woman back there. Uh, but then we get
At
him
least
in
he gets
episode
some.
we get him in episode 10 on the road. We start our adventure with Brienne and Jamie right before the season ends because Catelyn lets him free. So,
A
thoughts on
mess.
Jamie?
I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to Jamie in general in season 2. He's still, I mean, he wasn't very high in season 1 either because of all the terrible things that he did in season 1. But I guess, but the thing is, though, I do like his journey in season 3. But from what we've seen, so it seems like it seems like he's taken a turn in season 3. So at least it's hope. There's hope for him, maybe. But at least in season 2, he was still despicable. He still murdered and he murdered everyone, and just was like a downright terrible individual. But maybe there's hope for him. I mean, of the Lannisters, he seems to have the most hope as far as the evil ones. But I don't know. I mean, I like his character in the sense that, like, I just think that some of the villains are more interesting, at least the Lannisters.
Yeah. So then, moving into number 40, we have Stannis Baratheon. The Baratheon that thinks he is rightful heir to the throne and is doing everything he can to first defeat his brother's army. And then we see him take siege on King's Landing. And unfortunately, that doesn't quite go how he hopes it would. So,
Yeah.
we were introduced to Stannis this season. How did you feel about him in season 2?
It's tough because he's another interesting character. I guess because he is so vastly different. Because I mean, from the Baratheon we had seen, I mean, the only big Baratheon we had seen, I guess, was Robert. And it's just so it's interesting seeing the just complete different personalities between all of the brothers. Robert,
Yeah.
Renly, and also Stannis. Stannis seems to be. I think his approach to when it comes to battle is probably the most intriguing aspect because he just wants to use magic. He loves to use the magic elements. So I guess he tries. I mean, to Renly's downfall, I guess. I mean, that really made me upset when Renly got killed because Stannis had to go and use some crazy ass Melisandre baby demon magic powers. But yeah, at least in season 2, nothing too crazy as far as his character goes. We'll see what it's like in season 3 and on for however long he goes on. But
Ryan says Stannis is the greatest loser in Westeros.
honestly, I mean, at least he
Damn.
got away. Well, that's the thing. At least he got away. Like, at least he lost, but like he didn't die in the battle. I guess he got to retreat.
He got to leave. All right, so moving along, number 39, we have a pretty very minor character. We have Gran, one of the Night's Watch boys,
I lump them
who's
all together.
just roaming around out there. He has a couple kind of funny moments
Yeah,
with
just lump
Samuel,
them
but
all.
that's about it.
Just lump all of the Night's Watch together. I find most of the Night's Watch to be very uninteresting in season 2.
So yeah, Gran is there. Number 38, though, we have Yara Greyjoy, the last of the Greyjoys, the highest of the Greyjoys on our list.
I mean, the highest, and and it's not a high position, so.
So Yara is introduced first, like tricking her brother
Yeah,
into like
that was
fondling
weird. Straight up,
her, like,
that was just weird. Like,
but then she roasts Theon as well, and it's like, bruh, you ain't nothing here anyway. But then she goes and roasts him again after he takes Winterfell, and is like, great job on like taking over Winterfell from a bunch of little boys. Like, how stupid are you?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, good for you. Really great noble battle warrior right there.
she's another one I think you had a bit lower than I did in the rankings. What were your overall thoughts as we learned about Yara this season?
I mean, I think I don't like any of the Greyjoys at this point, so I guess that's part of just collectively as the Greyjoys. I just don't like them very much. I feel like she had the most personality, and I guess she got some points just because of the fact that she egged on. She just like flat out just flamed Theon at any chance she could. And since I didn't like Theon at all, that's part of why I liked her more because she had that kind of personality aspect to her, and she seems like she's going to be like a really good warrior. But still nothing too substantial. I feel I'm just not big on the Greyjoys in general, I guess.
All right. Well, moving right along to number 36 and 37, we have our latest tie, starting with Little Hot Pie. So
Yeah, good old Hot Pie.
roaming around with Arya and Gendry this season. He softened up from when we first met him in season 1, and certainly softens up as he gets owned throughout season 2.
Absolutely.
So how'd you feel about Hot Pie?
I feel like he was definitely the weakest link out of that entire group when it comes to, I guess, everyone when it involves the other kids, and when it comes to the Gendry and Arya, Jaqen and Hagar, like everyone in that group, that little pod of people, he was definitely my least favorite of the bunch. I guess the ones that lived anyway. But yeah, just seeing his character arc, I guess if you want to call it that, from season 1 to season 2, and then later on, because we have gotten to, I guess it seems like his end point in his storyline in season 3. I mean, it felt very appropriate his exit from the show, just because he's such like a wimp. Even though he tries to be like a try hard, he's going to be this try hard warrior type. He talks a big game, and then he just does nothing with it.
Well, we have some Hot Pie fans. Both Ryan and Leo are all about that Hot Pie life in the comment section.
My bad.
Then tied with Hot Pie 36, Doran, who only 2 episodes, but certainly did a lot to help Arya in those few episodes he was in. It's kind of rough around the edges, but he defends them literally to the death and gets Arya to have that idea of making a kill list in her head when he tells the story about getting revenge on his brother's killer. So, R.I.P. Yaren, how'd you feel about him?
He had a good run. Yeah, kind of the same vein. I mean, at least he had a few good ideas. He seemed like to at least have some personality to him, and the fact that he had, he was noble enough to at least defend them to the death, even though he didn't have to. I like the idea of the kill list. It kind of I mean, there's been a lot of lists and stuff lately. It reminded me of because watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, seeing Bucky pull out his little list he had of people. So it seems to be a common thing. You just got to keep a list, whether it be for making amends or killing people, or just writing down things you need to learn. Yeah, I'm excited to see what more of Arya's list in the future, her death list, because I think that's going to be an exciting thing later on in the show.
Poor Leo, just saying who to Yoren.
It's understandable. Honestly, if Larry. When Larry makes this list, I guess I'll give you the inside scoop of that. When Larry sends me this list of everyone, and thankfully he adds pictures to every name that he wants me to rank. So because there are like probably at least a third of them where I'm like, okay, well they had like a couple scenes, and that Yoren is one of them where it wasn't like I had to remember who he was thanks to that picture because I can't Google these people because Google says everyone dies.
So yes, it's too much. But moving along at number 35, we have another minor Night's Watch dude just roaming around. We have
Lump
Ed.
them, lump them together. Lump them together.
Edison
I don't.
Tollett. We met him for the first time this season.
That's nice. I hope it's the last time. Honestly.
So Ed is one of the guys just kind of roasting and getting sick of Samuel, and that's about most of his arc.
I understand everyone's frustration with Samuel, trust me, but like that's like their only contribution, I feel, towards their whole storyline. They just get angry at Samuel. Like the only ones that really have any sort of substantial screen time that I care about is like John and Samuel when it comes to the Night's Watch people.
Well, moving along, we have a three-way tie now for 32, 33, and 34. And we'll stay beyond the wall to kick off. And we have Gilly tied here.
Well, that's good.
We heard a lot about Gilly, even after she was long left behind.
That's all Samuel talked about.
All Samuel talks about season 2 was Gilly.
Good for him, I guess.
Yeah, so she had like a couple scenes trying to like escape with them, and John was like, "Nah, you got to stay here."
No thanks, I'm out. I don't need that kind of
not
drama.
A good plan. But yeah, so not too much to Gilly in season 2. We know she's a pregnant woman by her abusive father. Yay.
Father, yeah, that's a very father, I guess, wife thing.
Yeah. Then also tied for this position, we have Sir Roderick Cassel, who is also an RIP, one of our bigger deaths of season 2, because season 2 was actually a little bit light on main character deaths in comparison, especially when you look at season 1 and season 3 both have a ton more of main character deaths. Season 2 is kind of there.
I'm still traumatized from season 2, to be honest. So.
But Sir Roderick Cassel, one of the coolest hairstyle, beards in all of Westeros.
I will give him that.
He basically is, helping out Bran in one episode, and then he comes back and tells Theon off, and is like, "Brah, I should have killed you a long time ago. You are
trash." Spits in his face,
and gets one of the most brutal beheadings of the entire show because Theon cannot do it right, and it's like
everybody else. Everybody else, it seems, at least from what I've seen in the show, as far as like the more formal execution style of beheading people, they seem to be. It seems to just be one blow, like one slice, the head's gone. But Theon, he's just hacking away at him, basically.
Yeah, poor Roderick. I mean, I think we got more of him in season 1, but that death in season 2 just makes you feel for the guy. Brutal.
I felt for him, and it made me dislike Theon even more. So I guess it was a win-win in that regard.
And then also tied at number 32, we have little baby Rickon Stark.
Yeah, he lives. He exists.
He lives. So season 1, I basically spent like 7 episodes trying to convince Alyssa and Tyler that there was in fact a little Rickon Stark in Winterfell.
I mean, I had to commend the fact that he just stayed out of the mess, and I was like, I'm gonna go chill in this little dungeon with my direwolf, and I'll be back when you need me.
And then in season 2, he still kind of just goes off and does his own thing for long spouts of the season. And then we see him like when he does get stuck sitting with Bran in these like important meetings, he's just like bashing.
Poor guy, poor kid. He's just sitting there, just bored out of his mind in these meetings.
So there we go. Lil Rickon just chilling in season 2. Didn't do much here either.
He doesn't ever really do all that much, but at least he's he's there. He's there. So good.
He's
for him.
around.
Yeah, well, that's the best way to describe Rickon Stark. Rickon Stark. He's around.
He's alive, doing something somewhere. And has an awesome direwolf with a horrible name. That's Rickon.
Oh, oh right, yeah.
Leo says Rickon sucks. Let's be real. He's a little child. It's Leo.
Well, I
He's,
was being
he's like 6
nice.
years old. He's like 6 or
That's
7 years old.
that's why I was like, if we read between the lines, like he's around, he sucks, same thing.
Yeah. So then, moving on to number 31, we have the Lord Commander, Gior Mormont. So this season, most of his big moments come with Craster. And we get that big reveal that makes you a little bit conflicted about Lord Commander Mormont. So obviously he likes John, and I think that's what really builds him up in season 1. But then we figure out that he's willing to do not so great things morally for what he thinks is the right thing. So he knows about Craster's bad doings.
And Craster just killing all of his male children to the White Walkers or whatever in the forest. Yeah, that's kind of a bad thing to just know about and not do anything about.
Yeah. So how'd you feel about the Lord Commander?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit. Yeah, not a very noble thing of him to do. Kind of just goes to show you. I mean, I thought he was fine in the first season. He's Jorah's dad, I guess. I mean, Jorah and him, I think, don't have like they. I guess I would have liked to have seen them interact. Fortunately, they're never going to. But as far as the character goes, there's a lot of gray area with Game of Thrones characters, and I think he falls more into that kind of gray area where like he has some good intentions, but he also has in some aspects he also has some bad intentions. So he has I guess it's kind of the give and take of Game of Thrones. There's really not like a lot. There's not a lot of positivity in the world. But yeah, he was an all right character as a whole, even though he did some shady things, I guess, on the side.
Yeah.
It just sucks. It just sucks because I would have liked to have seen him interact with Jorah at least once before he gets stabbed and dies.
Yeah. So Ryan says the Mormont house has some of the best badasses. So we have one yet to meet. I'll give you that spoiler. Another Mormont on the way.
I know who she is. Unfortunately, thanks to the internet.
Of that casting, right? That casting, Mormont was plastered everywhere.
Yep.
But yeah,
that's how I knew because of the cat. Was it The Last of Us? The girl. Yeah. She's the Bella Ramsey. I think that's her name.
Yeah. So, moving right along, at number 30, we have Lady Melisandre, the Red Woman, the witch, by Stannis Baratheon's side. So, she certainly knows how to make an entrance. Her very first scene of the season is just like, whoa, who is this woman? She's drinking poison and not dying. She's telling prophecies. And then she's having like demon shadow babies. So
that was a bit weird. I mean, in general.
It was. She's very interesting of a character. I think, especially in season 2, you don't really know what to make of her. So, how did you feel about Lady Melisandre in season 2?
I guess like that's something I definitely agree with. You don't really know what to make of her, at least from season 2. Because it seems like she just has quite like a big bag of tricks in general. She seems like a very mysterious, witchy character. I know I was shocked seeing later on, in the season when she gave birth to this like demon spirit murdering assassin that killed Renly. I guess she's just quite an out there character. It was interesting seeing, I guess, the magic element be introduced to Game of Thrones in such a way because there wasn't really anything too crazy magical in that regard until that happened. So I guess I mean, if you're going to introduce that kind of aspect to your story, more power to you. And I know it continues. I know it continues in the season 3 because we watched season 3 already. And she's definitely an interesting character. I guess that's the best way to put it. She's quite out there and wears a lot of red. I will give that. I do love the wardrobe. She wears a lot of red and makes sure that everything in her clothes, when she does wear clothes, are red.
Yes, as Tyler says, the night is dark and full of terror. And yes, as we commented on throughout our season 2 reactions, she knows how to stand out. She's never hiding in the bushes because everybody else is in gray while she is sitting there in her red, constant.
everything is literally red on her except for like the horse. Like if she had had a red horse, that would have been like the perfect addition. But since I guess they don't have, well, they could make a red horse. It's Game of Thrones. It's fantasy.
Oh,
But
they could.
I guess they, at least for now, that would be the one addition. I guess my one request: get her a red horse, dye a horse red, or CGI a horse red.
Well, then at number 29, we have Podrick Payne. Good old Pod was introduced in season 2.
Love that guy.
He didn't have too much to do. He started being a squire to Tyrion Lannister this season, and we kind of saw him in the periphery. And then he makes his like breakout moment by saving Tyrion's life on the battlefield.
Like a badass.
Like a badass. And then we get some more fun stuff with him in season 3 that gives more color to his character. But season 2 specifically, he's just a very likable kid right from the get-go, and then he saves Tyrion's life. So
yeah.
Did you have anything to add about Pod?
Yeah, I mean, not too much, just because I think you summed him up pretty well. And then even for season 3, I think, I mean, he was also very fun in season 3 from what we saw. Yeah. So, I mean, and we'll see where his ranking, I guess, lies in the ranking for season 3. It could be a little bit higher. I mean, we'll see.
We got some Pod fans as well with Leo and Ryan calling for a Pod spinoff, Pod and Hot Pie.
Oh God! I mean, there's like 1,000 Game of Thrones spinoffs. So,
well, there's 1,000 Game of Thrones characters. So.
Well, that too, but like it's funny it's funny they bring up the ideas of spinoffs, because I think there's since they just announced 3 more the other day.
Flea Bottom on the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. I mean, I guess because we're only halfway through Game of Thrones. I don't know if any of this stuff. I mean, you would know more than I would. I mean, without, I guess, if there's any spoilers, I guess you leave it out, or you can don't tell me. But do any of these spinoffs have are they basically almost all of them in the past, or
Well, I think these new ones they just announced are more present. Like Flea Bottom, they can do anytime, because that's literally just the slums of King's Landing.
That's true. I guess
they could do Flea Bottom. I guess I would be most interested in Flea Bottom since they brought it up when Sir Davos was there. So I would like it to be a prequel so that we saw him growing up in Flea Bottom, or I guess while Gendry was there and his adventures in Flea Bottom. They have to give us a character we care about. Otherwise, why are we caring about Flea Bottom?
Well, that's what I mean, because of these characters, I mean, so many people have died in this show. But I mean, that's why I figured. I mean, it would have to be prequels, right? I mean, for the most part. I mean, or just prequels that are set so far in the past. I know that House of the Dragons one.
House of the Dragon is very.
It's set 300 years in the past, so they have a lot of leeway when it comes to setting up the show, and just kind of reminds me of the kind of stuff they would do with the Old Republic and stuff like that in Star Wars. So I guess I mean it's unfortunate though, because I know you're not too hyped for House of the Dragons, because you're they're all dead. Why should I care what happens to them now?
Oh my gosh. Well, we have Ryan say Pod and Pie coming to HBO Max this summer. So
oh man, they gotta fast track that real fast then.
Well, then moving right along to number 27 and 28, we have a tie, starting with Loras Tyrell, our Knight of Flowers, a.k.a. Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Up to number 28. So this season, obviously, we saw him with Renly in their little escapades for the first part of the season, getting owned by Brienne in the tournament and being very salty.
Understandable.
But then getting very mad, obviously, when Renly dies. And we see him just for a brief moment near the end of the season when he and the Tyrells come to save the day for King's Landing. So how'd you feel about Loras?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him. It is a little biased just because I know him as Iron Fist. So it was kind of cool seeing him pop up in season 1 when he had his little fun battle scene and he had gave Sansa the rose. I did initially hope maybe that could be her way out, and I guess almost in a way it was. But that was going to be the romance. That was going to be the romance, Sansa and Loras, and then he ends up being gay. And so that squashed my hopes for that, I guess, as far as real love anyway, because you know how Game of Thrones works when it comes to arranged marriages. he's a cool character. I mean, it was unfortunate to see what ended up happening with Renly, of course. But
Yeah.
I like him as a character. He like the Tyrells in general. I really enjoy. Like, if you haven't noticed, I guess yet by now by
So
watching it
say
with me.
wait till that season 3 ranking. I think we're gonna have a Tyrell real high on our list then.
Maybe barring any sudden changes. Yeah,
Because I also love the Tyrell that gets introduced in season 3.
I knew you would. Based on our reactions.
Yes. But also at number 27, we have Bran Stark, the other little Stark, who was Lord of Winterfell, doing his best to hold that fort down while all of his family was gone. And his mom just left him for way longer than anyone anticipated. But he starts having his visions more and more frequently. And then they're on the move by the end of the season, so they're trucking it with Hodor and Osha by the end. So, how did you feel
Yeah,
about
I
Bran
guess.
in season 2?
Yeah, I mean, at least he's getting some more substantial screen time, and his storyline. His storyline is definitely not one of my favorites in this season or even next season. I guess kind of spoiler. Uh, but I mean, he's a good character. He's the character that I am invested in the sense that he has such a interesting kind of power set. I guess you want to call them powers, and I want to see that explored more. It seems like the show in general is kind of taking way too long to actually get into the meat of that story.
I'm just laughing at Ryan and Leo.
But really,
Ryan says Bran, the most boring character in TV.
I mean, he's up there.
uh, the poor little boys of the Stark family, because obviously I think we all love the youngest girl, which we'll see much higher on our list. But the two little boys of the Stark.
Yeah, they just don't care. It seems like the writing for them, they just don't really care too much about them half the time.
Yes. So moving along, we have somebody who's on the adventure with Bran and Rickon. 26, we have Hodor, our lovable giant Hodor.
Yes, good old Hodor.
Who we were very happy to see at least get a cart to push Bran around in by the end of the season.
Got to upgrade.
Just literally carrying Bran around for season 2. Um, but yeah, I think Hodor's one of those characters who doesn't do a lot on his own. He's just kind of there in season 2, but he's just so lovable that he
Exactly.
makes his way this high on our ranking.
Because he's lovable and he doesn't do anything that's bad. So
Yeah.
as long as it seems like that's the thing. If you don't do anything bad in Game of Thrones, you're gonna at least make it to like the middle of the list.
Yeah. So, yay, Hodor, number 26. So, moving along for a tie at number 24 and
Another one.
25. Another tie.
Well, at least you and I
This,
can be on the same page.
yeah, this time in the tie we have Maester Luwin, who is our latest dead character in the rankings. So Maester Luwin, I think this season had some good moments. I really liked his talks with Theon and him trying his best to talk sense into Theon.
He did his
Unfortunately,
best.
it didn't work. And then that moment, obviously, we talked about it. His completely ridiculous and senseless death for no reason. That leads to probably his best moment of the series. I think that speech he gives to Bran and Rickon was like a really touching,
I
nice
know.
moment.
It was a
And you're
sad
like,
moment, actually.
why? Why is he dying? So screw you, Dagmar. You're an idiot.
Cool. I mean, he still has a cool name. Tagmar
Yeah.
Clockjar is a very cool fantasy name, I feel. But, you
Leo.
had to kill.
Not another who. Maester Luwin. He's the old man in Winterfell.
I mean, understandable.
But yeah, do you have anything to add for Maester Luwin?
I guess R.I.P.
Yeah, poor old man. But the old man who's also wrong about all things magic, as he tells he tells
Yeah.
Bran that everything is done, and then we instantly learn right after he says it doesn't exist that they do in fact exist.
Yeah,
So
because yeah, he said like there's no dragons,
no
no
giants,
giants, no White
no White
Walkers or something like
Walkers.
that. I was like, oh
Yeah,
man, well, whoops. If only he had stayed alive a little bit longer,
yeah.
he could have looked real dumb.
Well, then also tied for number 24, possibly our most improved, our highest jump, I think, out of all of the characters. We have Sansa Stark up to 24
Yay!
this season.
Be nice to us, people.
So
Yay!
you don't have to hate us. We came around to Sansa a little bit. Obviously, she's still not one of our favorite characters through season 2, but I mean, at what point you just, I mean, you have to feel sorry for somebody who's going through what Sansa's going through in King's Landing. She
Absolutely.
still has, she's young, so she still has moments where she gets on your nerves, particularly when she's just like mean to Shay for, I mean, she's stressed out, but she like takes it out on her handmaiden girl
For
for
no
no
reason,
reason,
yeah.
like just mean to her when she first meets her. But then she comes around quickly and that turns into a good relationship. And then she has frustrating moments where she doesn't go with the hound in
I
episode
know.
9. You're like, just go, please. But Sansa, you sometimes I think as a character you kind of just wish she was a little bit more proactive in other ways. She's trying to lie, she's trying to survive, and she's young, so you get it. But it just, I mean, she's in a tough spot. So anything to say about Sansa Stark in season 2?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see her development because in season 1 I wasn't like too big of a fan of her
Yeah.
character. It's just it wasn't one of my favorites or anything. So I mean, I even said this, predicted this, that I figured that she was gonna eventually get some development just because I figured she was gonna be on the show for a while. So she's kind of just stuck in this terrible situation.
Yeah.
But it seems like she's at least trying to make best of the situation involved, and she has some good development as just as a person in general, and her personality when it comes to, I guess, Shay helping her kind of become like a very sassy individual when she wants to be, because she does get some good, fun, I guess, quips in here and there between this season and the next season. So I'm liking her development so far. So at least I can understand why people who were so passionately loving her early on were so upset with me just because myself and Alyssa especially weren't super fond of her character.
Yeah, season 1
But it
she
was
was
only
real
one
good.
season. It
I
was
still
one
think
season.
I still think she's a little bit underwritten in the show itself, but definitely a step up for the
She's getting
character in
better.
season 2.
I feel like
Yeah.
eventually it'll come to a head. Like I think the most I felt bad for in season 2 was in that 9th episode when
Oh
Cersei is
gosh.
just like railing into her in the dungeon like area when the
Yeah.
battle of Blackwater was happening.
But then at number 23, we have Samuel Tarley. So
Yeah.
he's in pretty much the same position, more or less, than he was in our season 1, except me and Tyler in season 1 had him at like number 10. So he was brought down by Alyssa. However, season 2, we both have him much lower in our own personal rankings. And I think that's because he doesn't do much in season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of just like, I feel like a lot of what he does in season 2 is he's kind of just he gets on people's nerves. Like like not as us as the audience. I mean, like he gets on the characters in the show's nerves, when they're on their mission with the Night's Watch, and he's always talking about Gilly this and Gilly that, and they just like do not care in the slightest about him whatsoever. And I mean, he doesn't really do all that much, as you said. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't know. But he's like a likable, like oaf kind of character, much like Hodor in a sense. But he's, I guess, a little bit more proactive because he kind of has to be because he's in the Night's Watch.
I mean, so his big moment, obviously, where he showed his heart, but also showed his naivety, is like trying to break Gilly out of there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good person and he wants to do what's right, but John has to be like, reason. Like, we can't just steal her because then that will cause horrible things. But then, if you watched our episode 1 reaction for season 3, it kind of leaks over from episode 10. we're kind of in that point of Samuel, you have to be proactive a little bit when things happen. Like
Yeah,
you
because
can't
he was
run,
like
run.
making he was he was making no efforts to be saved from that White Walker that was trying to
I
kill
mean,
him.
he's literally lucky to be alive after episode 10 of season 2. He
Well, that
probably
too.
he probably should have died at the episode
Never.
10.
I'm still confused by that ending. I guess you could say, just like what, because I know that you've even told me there are theories of
Yeah.
what the ways to interpret that ending. Because it looks like that guy is just staring right at him as this giant army's coming, and then you see in the next episode he's alive. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, so Leo and Ryan both. Leo says a little low and Ryan says Samuel should be high.
I mean,
Sorry.
maybe season three, maybe it's shaping up
Maybe
for a little bit higher.
we'll see. But then moving right along to number 22, we have Roz, the sassy, intelligent prostitute that works for Peter Baelish. One of her big moments of season 2, unfortunately, is that moment with Joffrey making her like abuse the other prostitute. But then we see just like how smart she is, like when Cersei takes her hostage thinking that that's the prostitute that Tyrion loves.
I
She
thought
really
that
does.
moment was great.
Yeah, she
By the
really
way,
has no connection to Tyrion, but she still goes along. She like looks at Tyrion and makes that choice in the moment to be like, oh no, okay, don't forget me, like acts with it. So
I did
I
think I was
think
good. Yeah.
so. Yeah, like we get those quick moments of cunning, and then we see it as part of season 3. Although we get the sad moment with her in season 3, but she's an intelligent woman, and I think she just is kind of a fun character when we get time with her. But anything else
Yeah, I
for
agree.
Roz? Oh,
Not too much more.
yeah, and then she got tortured mentally by Littlefinger,
Yeah, that was pretty
and
bad.
that
I mean,
horrible moment. But
that was pretty bad. I hate Littlefinger though, so that's not a
yeah.
surprise.
All right, so at number 20, we have another tie.
Yay,
Uh,
tie.
first up at our tie is Marjorie Tyrell, Queen to be Marjorie. So we first meet Marjorie when she is sitting beside Renly as his new queen to be, and we get like one of the ultimate like down wives in television history moments when she sits him down is like, look, bro, I know what's up, Renly. I know what you and my brother are about. I don't care. I'll bring him in. We can do it with him. I can pretend to be whatever you need. We're good. So she's one of the most chill wives of TV.
You gotta love Marjorie. I can't deny that.
But then we see her cunning as well as she makes some moves to get to King's Landing after she tells Littlefinger, I don't want to just be a queen, I want to be the queen. And we see it in episode 10. She weasels her way in and ousts Sansa to become the new heir apparent, the new wife for Joffrey. So you had Marjorie quite high on your list, Tyler. How come?
I think some of it does bleed into season 3, just because I do like the character as a whole.
Yeah.
I like that she's kind of just down with whatever. I think that's a very noble thing with her brother and Renly. Yeah, I think that she's just overall a very likable individual, and she's not like overly bad in any way. I mean, she's kind of like the antithesis of the opposite of Cersei Lannister, I feel. So, yeah, I feel like I think I just like her a whole lot more
And
for, I guess, in that regard.
then, yeah. So, ooh, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my internet. So then, also tied here, we have Lord Varys, who this is one of our biggest disagreements.
Well,
So it was once again. This is pretty much the same for me as season 1. I had Lord Varys very high on my list compared to Tyler and Alyssa, and then I had him very high again compared to Tyler.
I just don't like him either. I mean, I like him better than Littlefinger, but like not by much. It's not saying that's not saying anything really.
Yeah, so Lord Varys, why I like him so much is he is what can I say? I love a good dramatic, like sassy queen running around, telling people off.
I do like that. I will give you that.
And his exchanges with Tyrion are always so good. Like they are some of my like favorite little moments. His exchanges with Littlefinger in season one were great, and then this season he was a lot more with Tyrion, and those were great as well. But we kind of talk about it. Tyrion elevates pretty much everybody he's around, like in those exchanges. They
Hmm.
become like these great moments. So part of that is that, and then I don't know. Lord Varys is always questionable, but
Exactly.
fun. He hasn't done anything outright snake like Littlefinger did in season one. So there you go.
His moment's coming though. I just feel it.
But yeah, he had that great moment, as Ryan said. Varys has some of the best quotes in the series. The big fish eat, and little fish eat the little fish, and I just keep on pedaling. When Tyrion thought he was going to play Varys, Varys is always just as smart, though. So, how did you feel about him in season two?
I mean, I just, he's another one, just like I guess in the same vein as Littlefinger. Like I just find him to be very questionable, as you said. Uh, I guess he's like a little bit less questionable than someone like Littlefinger, who has like outright just betrayed people in the past already. Like, I mean, I'm still upset about that with Ned Stark in season one. Um, I don't know though. I mean, I do like the sassiness level of Varys. I mean, I don't outright hate him or anything, you know, as compared to like Littlefinger. But I just don't feel as strongly, I guess you could say, when it comes to Varys as a character.
Well, moving right along at number 19, quite high, we have Talisa, Lady Talisa, Rob Stark's love interest for season two. And actually, by the end of season two, his wife, because they get married in a
Yeah,
sneak wedding in episode 10. But we meet her under the weirdest introduction, like
so weird.
romance moments ever, as she's chopping a dude's, amputating his leg, and Rob is like turned on by it.
That's what it looked like, at least.
um, but obviously she's stunning, so I guess what straight guy is not going to be like, oh hey, who are you?
I don't know. I'd be a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'd hesitate a bit if there was like a really hot girl chopping a guy's leg off like a foot from me. But I mean, I don't know what the. Maybe that's a disconnect from our cultures. I don't know. I mean, just that's just how I feel.
But I think her shining moment comes a little bit later in the season. Obviously, she gives Rob some sass because she's pretty anti-war overall compared to him. She's not like fully on his side of the war, but we get some great moments with her a little bit later in the season. Obviously, when she's talking to Rob, trying to ease some of his like worries, and then we get that great backstory from her about like why she moved on over. So yeah, any other thoughts on Talisa for season two?
Season two, no. Season three, I'm still sad, but we'll get there, I guess.
Yeah, so we know where she goes, but season two, she's certainly one of the more lovely characters of the show. And as both Ryan and Leo are kind of talking about, her and Rob make up one of the better couples of the show. Even though you kind of, as we mentioned, if you watch our reactions, we're a little bit hesitant because we know strategically it's a risk. Ugh, you just can't
I,
not stand them. They just have, they have such good chemistry together.
I
It's
feel
hard
like
not to fall for them.
Well, I feel like also as well they're like one of the more
Yeah.
normal couples in general. I mean, when you look at the couples that we've had in the show so far, a lot of them are not the greatest circumstances. You know, when it comes,
Twins.
like I said, not the greatest circumstances, whether it be arranged marriages, incestuous relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the great. You know, when it comparatively to those, and then you just find true love the proper way. I guess as proper as it can be.
Yeah. Well, then coming in at number 18, we have another new love interest that is introduced in season three. We have Egret, the
Yeah.
wildling that John captures beyond the wall, and the wildling who continues to just kind of like egg John on.
Just
Um,
obnoxious to John the whole time.
Pretty obnoxious. Talks about sex to him pretty much all of season 2. That's like her way of very forward flirting with John. But she does return the favor and proves to at least be a good-hearted person in the fact that he saved her life, so she does save his life, even if some of that is motivated by her own affections for John.
Pretty
And
much.
yes, Ryan points out she has obviously one of the most iconic quotes of the entire show with "You know
Yeah.
nothing, Jon Snow."
Yeah, I mean that's a good quote. I can see why it became so popular because I mean just the
Yeah.
many times she says it throughout the season.
So, how'd you feel about Egret this season?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I liked her a lot. I mean, she had a good personality. I mean, the wildlings in general, they seem to be quite a group of characters, at least from the ones that we've seen. She definitely seems to have the most, punctual, straightforward kind of personality when it comes to her conversations with Jon Snow. And I did like that. I mean, it makes sense. They had really great chemistry, and to the sense, I mean, I guess they had a lot of really great chemistry because they got married in real life. So, so, so not surprising there that they ended up having really great chemistry. But yeah, I like them in this season, even into the next season as well, where it ends up at least for the moment.
All right, so up to number 17, we have another wildling woman. We have Osha, who stayed in our top 20 this season. And I think a lot of that, for me, has to do with just her dedication to the kids.
Hmm.
She really obviously has a bond with Bran and Rickon, and she is the one who gets them out of there before Theon can kill them for real.
Yeah, poor her. She had to throw her life on the line, so to speak, with
Yeah.
Theon.
She seduces Theon, kills the guard, and sneaks them on out of there. She doesn't have maybe as many iconic lines as she did in season 1. She wasn't quite as ferocious.
No.
But yeah, anything else about Osha's character that got her this high?
I just like her as a character in general.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as her, when it comes to her character, I think she is one of the highlights of that storyline when it comes to her, Bran, Rickon, and Hodor. So she at least makes their whole storyline at least somewhat more enjoyable, even though it is one of my least favorite of the storylines
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah, she's the highest one we have on ours, and I think she has the most personality out of that entire little group. So.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you kind of that group. Yeah, Bran doesn't. I mean, Rickon doesn't really do all that much. Bran kind of. I mean, Bran by his three-eyed raven stuff, and Hodor just says Hodor, but he's a cute, sweet character. So she does kind of shoulder a lot of the personal.
And
stuff.
she has this cute bond with Hodor too that you start seeing in season 2. So yeah, she's great. So then moving along at number 16, we have Gendry, Robert's bastard child. And he definitely gets a lot more to do this season than he did in season 1. Obviously, moving along with Arya, they have some really fun banter through the first half of the season, and we don't see them as much together in the second half because she's obviously off with Tywin. But I really liked their relationship, and his loyalty to Arya, if you will, I think is why I enjoyed Gendry a lot more in season 2. How about you? What were your feelings on Gendry?
Yeah, kind of about the same. I liked his development in season 2 because I was surprised to see just how much development he got. I guess because he wasn't really too interesting in the first season. He was kind of just Robert's bastard son, and then we see him kind of introduced once again in the end of the first season, and then we get all this stuff in season 2 and their journey, I guess you could say, with Arya, Hot Pie, and all them.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where the future of his storyline goes because he's one of the characters I am more invested in, I guess you could say, when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, and both Leo and Ryan are all about that Gendry life in the comments too. So
Gendry gang.
All right, so number 14, we got our next tie going on. And kicking
Okay.
off this tie, we have Shay. Obviously, this is Tyrion's love interest for the first two seasons, and as we know, the first three seasons so far of the show. And she is now Sansa's handmaiden, and she has some pretty great moments this season. I think, obviously, her relationship with Sansa is a highlight when she's trying to help her so that they don't find out that Sansa had her period. And I mean, she goes and threatens that other handmaiden's life.
I know. I forgot about
But she's just such a like ferocious character constantly. Um, and she's fun. She's obviously teaching Sansa a lot as she works
absolutely.
through her interactions. We see she's a little bit jealous when it comes to Tyrion right now. She gets a little bit irrationally mad or frustrated with poor Tyrion, but it's all part of her like fiery personality. So,
That's
what do
why
you
I
have to?
like her because of her personality.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you have to say about Shay in season two?
Yeah, I kind of agree about everything. Just the fiery personality aspect is probably why she's so high on the list, just because she
Yeah.
has so many, because of her personality, she seems to have a lot of really fun moments with whoever she's speaking to, whether it be Tyrion or even Sansa. I like their dynamic in that sense, especially, I think part of why Sansa is so much higher on this list is thanks to the influence of Shay.
Yeah.
So I think it can only go up from there in that aspect.
All right. Well, then tied with Shay for 14, we have the Hound.
Yeah.
Sandor Clegane. And I think he definitely was helped in season two. We liked him okay in season one. I think he was in the 20s somewhere, but he definitely gets a lot of development in this second season. So he still has those really like rough and gruff moments where he
hmm
like reveals how much he just loves to murder people.
Straight up, just
Just
psychopath.
says it, just like comes out and says, yo, I like to kill people. All of us are killers. um, and he definitely has some of the most brutal kills we have
Yeah,
seen from anyone in the show so
traumatized.
far.
I am
I mean,
traumatized still.
woo, the Battle of Blackwater.
Straight
I
up
will say,
cutting people in half,
the only one who comes close
sideways.
is Stannis, because Stannis like chopped the top of that guy's head off, but he had one. The Hound killed multiple people in that Battle of Blackwater in brutal.
Even before that, I mean, even he's always had some of the most
The
brutal
way
kills. Even when
the way he grabbed
killed
that
those,
guy and
yeah, or just the guy he like disemboweled when trying to save Sansa. I was like,
Sansa,
ugh.
yeah. Oh yeah, those guys. But then his relationship with Sansa, yeah, he has a couple moments where he's kind of rude and rough with her, but he has a lot of great moments with her this season as well. He literally goes and saves her life when she's about to get raped and probably killed by these crazy people. And then at the Battle of Blackwater, I mean, I think that's when he cements himself icon status at like Battle of
I
Blackwater.
would say.
He's like stunned when the guy hands him the water, and he's like, "The hell." I didn't say. I said, "Give me a drink." I didn't say I was thirsty. Give me the wine. But then Tyrion's trying to convince him when he's like, "You know what? There's too much fire. I don't even like you people. I'm leaving." And Tyrion's like, "Well, no, no, no. Get back out there. Like, your city. Protect your king." And he's like, "You know what? F the King's Guard. F the city. And F the king. I'm gone." Like,
Yeah, literally, and he's like, "Who wants to come with me? You want to come, Sansa?"
yeah, and he goes to like take Sansa with him. He's like, "Look, I'm going north. You want to come?" So the Hound goes through a lot of stuff. He's definitely, even when he's horrible, like when he's saying horrible things and being mean to people, he's still really funny. So,
I know. I say that definitely helps. That's a big factor I feel, and why I like him a lot.
so how'd you feel about the Hound in season two?
Yeah, I think we both summed that up really well. Almost all of my feelings,
Yeah,
especially the traumatizing moments where he brutalizes people. Those are some definitely the most surprising, I guess, kills of the show because of just how visceral and brutal and gory they were. I guess it got me into the mindset of realizing that this show is going to be even more violent as the episodes go on. He's a very scary, imposing guy, and he's a character I'm actually looking forward to seeing explored more in the future.
Yeah. All right. So moving up to number 13. This one might be controversial that he's not in the top 10.
Oh
We have
no!
Jon Snow at 13. And we actually both ranked him at 13 to get
Oh,
this
good.
average.
Thank God.
So
Thank God it's not just me.
I posted about this on Twitter, and I think he gets a little bit better in his storyline in season 3. But even then, the problem with Jon Snow in season 2 is he just has almost nothing to do. And I think that you see strides in his character as a person and as a human. He becomes a better person, and his stuff with Ygritte is fun, but he just has nothing to do in the show. He's
Honestly,
literally just walking in the snow for 10 episodes of the show.
I know.
And I stick it on
I brought that
repeat.
up to you. I was like, what is the appeal at this moment in time? As far as like, I like him as a character, but
Yeah.
what he's doing isn't interesting to me.
I mean, we go several episodes in a row at one point without even seeing John before. Early in the season, like we go 2 or 3 episodes in this season with no John. Yeah, and we see Ryan and Leo are shook. They
Sorry.
are shook. But I think that's what hurts him for me. Do you have more to add about John and why he didn't make your top 10?
Um, Not too much. I mean, I just wish. I mean, thankfully, the ball does eventually get rolling with Jon Snow. So I mean, I think maybe he'll be in the field. He'll reach the heights that people want me to eventually. But at least at this moment in time, I feel like his was one of the most boring of the storylines. Just him walking through the snow, as you said, and um, for many episodes with Ygritte or without Ygritte, it's just didn't do it for me. And I like him as a character. I think he has a good heart to him. I think he has some personality that I think thankfully Ygritte pulls out of him almost by force. I think that's part of why I like him a little bit more in the future. But at least in season 2, I just wasn't feeling it all that much. That's why even I posed the question when we were doing the reactions for season 2, and it's like because I know how much you love Jon Snow because of our history together. I'm thinking like I'm watching season 2 with you, and I'm like, what is the hype? I don't understand.
Yeah. So I don't know. We love John as a person, but mm. So moving right along at number 12, Ryan. He's not quite top 10, but we got close. We have Sir Davos Seaworth at number 12.
Oh man,
Good old Davos, pretty much the hand to Stannis Baratheon. And yeah, Davos is just awesome. I mean, he's fun, he's
I agree.
likable right from the beginning. Um, you see that he is a good person. I like his interactions with his son, even though we don't get much with his son, obviously.
No,
But yeah, I think he's funny too. He has like funny moments. But yeah, so Davos is just a character that's easy to like. Then we get those moments with the red woman and Davos.
that was me in that scene. That was how I
Uh,
felt. His facial expression when that was happening was how I felt.
I mean, we want to talk about shook. Davos was shook when he saw that baby being born, that shadow demon.
Whatever that thing was technically supposed to be.
Yeah, but what do you have to say about Davos and his introduction and character arc this season?
I thought he was pretty great. I mean, even for him being this high and this is being like his introduction to the series, I mean, it could probably only go higher, I'd assume, just based on people that we know that that like the character and watch the show. And he's been a lot better as I think he's getting better as the series goes on. But yeah, he's just such a likable character. I just like him in general, no matter it seems like what he's doing. And I guess because of that moment between him and the Red Woman when that whole stuff happened is why I connected with him even more because I felt like I was him in that situation. He was just stuck. He was just struck with like confusion and shock at the same and all the other
Yeah.
emotions.
Well, then, just barely missing our top 10 at number 11, we have Tywin Lannister. So I actually had Tywin in my top 10. because I think in season 2 he is such a great character. I think I think season 2 is Tywin's strongest season in the show. Um, and honestly, I'll talk about this more next week when I do my comparison. But at putting Tywin and Arya together is one of the best changes they made from the books to the show, because that doesn't
Yeah,
happen in the book.
I heard that. I heard that
Yeah.
when I was looking stuff up for season 2 that wasn't actually a thing.
Yeah, which I'm shocked because I'm just reading book 2 now. And I mean, it's so well done and executed that I was like, wow, I mean, this was the best change probably they made to the show
They were some of
from the
those
books.
scenes were some of my favorite scenes, probably just the interactions between Arya and Tywin.
I mean, it definitely helps too that season 2, Tywin is not around any of his own children, because that's
Oh
when we
yeah,
see the worst of Tywin Lannister come out, when he's around Tyrion.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
Tywin is not too fond of any of his kids, really.
yeah, but season 2, he's only around Arya, and he seems to like Arya, and for the most part, he's really nice to her. I love their battle of like wits for
Me
every
too.
single scene, and their scenes are kind of like the highlights of a lot of these episodes. They're so
Hmm.
tense, like you're always on edge of like,
Well, yeah,
oh, Arya,
because
you're skating
Tywin.
a line.
It's because Tywin is such a smart individual that like he obviously knows something's up, so he's kind of just like waiting. He's biding his time, just wait and see her slip up more. And even though she's a very bright young individual, but eventually she does inevitably slip up sometimes, and that makes for some extra fun tension, I feel, in their scenes together.
Yeah, and I love that he just kind of respects it, because he never
Hmm.
learns that she's Arya Stark. He never pushes it to the point to figure out who she is, but so it kind of just makes him respect this girl on the move doing her thing.
Yes, he had a great time with it. It seemed like.
Yeah, and he was willing. He's going to make sure she was taken care of, though he was going to leave her with the mountain, which I'm like, whoo, thank God that didn't happen.
I mean, that could have been fun, right?
Whoo, thank you, Jaqen, for getting her out of there, because no, thank you.
I don't know.
Um,
You wouldn't have wanted to see Arya go on some adventure with the
Oh
mountain.
God, I would just hope the mountain didn't just decide to kill her one day or something.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
I don't
that's
know,
yeah.
the mountain is too much. I can't.
But I mean, I don't know. You think maybe if she had gone with someone like the mountain, she would have been like this crazy, fierce warrior type, and like,
Could have been.
more
Ugh.
so than she already is. But I mean, like, just imagine that development of her with a mountain. I guess instead, that could be kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, Leo says, "Do y'all think he knew?" Because Leo thinks that he knew it was Arya. Um,
I don't know if he
obviously
knew it was Arya. I guess,
yeah,
but
he knew she was of highborn class, like right off the bat with her, and kept kind of like roping her into situations where she would expose herself, of being a highborn girl. But I don't even know if he knew that Arya was missing. Um, yeah, I don't know if they sent him that information or not, that they didn't have Arya anymore, because Tyrion tells Cersei, like, Tyrion was shook when Cersei told him that she lost Arya. So I don't think Cersei was trying to let it out of the castle that she lost Arya Stark.
well,
I
no,
think she was
because
trying to hide that fact at all costs.
like basically like everybody in the show, like they're all peddling this false information. Like the two
Yeah,
Starks are there. Like we're gonna make this
yeah.
trade for the two Starks. Sansa and Arya, and they didn't have Arya the entire time.
Yeah, so I think he knew, obviously he knew she wasn't who she was trying to be. He showed that pretty clearly. I just don't know how he would have quite pieced together who she was before. If they had gone on longer and he didn't have to leave Harrenhal and stayed
Mhm.
with her there, I think maybe he would have figured it out or pieced it
Mhm.
together. But as it was, I think she was safe. But yeah, I think Tywin was great. He had great moments in season 2.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a 3-way tie for 8, 9, and 10.
Well, damn, another tie. Why not?
All right. So kicking off this tie, we'll stay with that storyline. We have Jaqen Hagar. And he is a really interesting character for season 2. And he comes in as just this weird prisoner who is so dangerous that he has to be locked in a cage. And he talks very strange. And we're like, who the hell?
I know.
But then he's let out of that cage. And I think we kind of assume we're never going to see him again. But
I did.
surprise!
I did. I figured, all right, well, he's let free, so
Yeah. So he really came in and was like, this badass, awesome assassin by the end of the season, helping Arya out for saving his life. He gives her three names. He comes through. At first, you're a little bit skeptical of like, who is this guy and how is he going to come like and do this? But he comes through. He gets Arya out of there. He's honestly one of the most badass characters of season 2.
hundred
Kills
percent
so many people. And then we get that huge reveal with Jaqen in episode 10,
with the
where we
faces.
learn about his faceless man.
He can take his
Um,
face off.
Ryan is shook, though. He says Jaqen Hagar over John and sorry, Ryan. But
Season 2, at least.
how did you? What do you have to add about Jaqen in season 2?
I mean, I thought he was very entertaining, even for like his minimal screen time. At some points, he definitely he had quite an impact on me, and I mean the faceless stuff when he could change his face, and he was like such like a great assassin. The only thing I guess I would have wished is I would have wished that Arya had picked the names better. Like I wish that like Arya had used her three names more efficiently than the
Yeah,
she kind of wasted the two of them. The first
yeah.
two. She could have used them a little bit better, but I mean, I guess technically she has the third one still because I think because what you said, the third one was just like kill yourself, basically.
Yeah. But then, also tied for number 8, I guess, is Bronn of the Blackwater. Bronn in the
I
top
love
10
Bron.
again. So Bronn this season is still chilling with Tyrion, basically. And he's part of the Gold Cloaks when Tyrion is Hand of the King, running around doing some things. And Bronn just has this innate ability through both of these first 2 seasons to literally just brighten up every single scene he's in. He
Absolutely.
no matter what's happening, no matter what he's doing, he has some one-liners to go in there. He has some really fun exchanges. And he's a badass all the time. So obviously we love Bronn here, but he's certainly been one of your favorite secondary characters of the show so far, Tyler.
I think he brings just a lot of entertainment to any scene he's in, no matter who he's interacting with. I think my favorites, of course, are his interactions, even especially with Tyrion and Podrick eventually. Yeah, and the badass fights that he does get here and there. I mean, he has his moments. I think even later on in the season when he has his moments with the Hound, I thought those were some really good ones as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Especially after all their exchange with each other, he ends up saving his life
Yeah.
because he can't handle fire. The Hound can't handle fire, and he's just like, you're welcome.
Uh, poor Leo is just going to be shook over all these people we have over John.
My bad.
Poor Leo. Sorry, Leo.
It's season 2. It's not like
Yeah.
it could change.
But we love Bronn. He's one of the most entertaining and lively characters of the show. Now, moving right along to number 8, our final person in this 3-way tie, we have Catelyn Stark, the matriarch of the Stark family, who probably would have been even higher on our lists if she hadn't done the one thing that like killed us
Dumb.
all and freed Jaime Lannister.
So dumb in my opinion.
It was like the fatal flaw of Catelyn Stark's character was being emotional in that moment and thinking if I delivered Jaime back to the Lannisters, they'll let my 2 daughters go. In turn, unfortunately, screwing over her son's position in the war by doing so.
Ridiculous.
But up until that point, I think Catelyn was really good. I liked her interactions with Renly and going down there. Once again, she was wheeling and dealing. She knew not to kill Jaime, at least, before she sets him free. When Lord Karstark is ready to just pop his head off, she's like, no, we can't. She
Yeah.
she also does give good advice in the season, as she like urges Robb not and Theon to go back and talk to his father because she knows his father is terrible. And she was right. Rob should not
For
have sent
everything,
Theon to go
yeah.
back to his father.
Yes,
And she
Catelyn was
also
really right.
is, yeah, she was also quite concerned about him and Talisa, which is an overbearing mom, but also kind of turns out to be right. So
For
we're
that's what I
like,
mean.
oh.
When you look in retrospect, she ended up being basically right about everything. So
Yeah, the only thing she did wrong was Jamie, and I think that's what
yeah,
hurts her from getting higher on our list because it's such a like frustrating moment.
absolutely, 100%.
Did you have anything to add for Catelyn in season 2?
Um, no, I guess I think we covered the bases as why disagree on why we liked Catelyn Stark and why we disliked Catelyn Stark. I mean, I definitely could understand, I guess in a sense why she would at least think about trying to free Jaime Lannister, but I wish that she didn't, just because of what ended up transpiring because of it. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Leo says, yeah, Catelyn was messed up to John, but it's way worse in the books. Yeah, she's a little bit worse than John in the books.
Is she?
Uh, Yeah. So the show doesn't show it as much, but woo. Then we have number 7, Sir Jorah Mormont, who was also really high in our season 1 ranking, where we're digging Jorah Mormont so far in the series.
He's had a good turn because he went in with like no, I guess bad intentions, and then he ended up actually liking Daenerys. So
Yeah, so he certainly has a little bit of more simp energy in season 2 than he did in season 1.
that's a good way to describe it. I feel
There's a couple moments where you're like, "Oh, Jorah, pull it back just a little bit, Jorah."
Jorah's definitely in the friend zone.
But also in the same respect, he gives Daenerys a lot of great advice in this
Hmm.
season. He's very much there for her. He's the one who talks her away from considering that marriage with Zaro, which thank God she
Yeah,
did not marry him. He's obviously very loyal to her at this point, ever since he turned to her side. And he's a badass warrior. We see it in the several scenes. His biggest flaw in season 2 is that he just walks too slow. that was that was Jorah's worst moment. Keep up, Jorah.
I
Walk
know.
faster, Jorah.
Yeah, and that little moment where she ends up disappearing inside,
Yeah.
just because he didn't pick up the walk a little bit faster.
Yeah. So, what did you think of Jorah in this season?
Yeah, I think I liked him a little bit more in this season. He's definitely more fleshed out. I think he does bring that great element to Daenerys. I mean, he plays a vital integral part in Daenerys. I think growing as a character from season 1 to season 2 and then on. I always like his banter with Daenerys, and it seems like he does seem to have like the more rational response to things, especially as Daenerys gets more and more power, at least in the first couple seasons that we've seen. Like I said earlier, I wish that we could have at least gotten maybe one interaction between him and his dad, just because I was
Yeah.
curious about it, because we heard about their relationship, but obviously that's never going to happen because he died. But yeah, I like their dynamic. I like the little team, the ragtag little group of people that they have. Jorah, the few Dothraki that are still around, and Daenerys and the dragons.
Obviously, we got those interactions with him and Quaithe, that woman in the in the mask.
Whatever that
Um,
woman was about.
in this season, she called Jorah out on betraying Daenerys.
Thankfully,
Had
nobody.
poor Jorah shook.
Yeah, thankfully she didn't mention it. I guess. I mean, this random lady that had all this info that they just
Yeah.
never mention ever again.
But yeah, Jorah, he's a real one for Danny in season 2 for sure.
Yeah, I like his relationship with Daenerys, even if they're not gonna, even if they have, I think you said it before, his simp energy. Friend zone. He is very heavily, deeply in the friend zone. Definitely, I think anyway.
Well, Ryan and Leo, brace yourselves because I know you're about to be shook because I know a lot of people forget about him, but clearly Tyler and I really like him. So coming in all the way up at number 6, we have Renly Baratheon, R.I.P. to the king.
He had the right ideas.
Listen, so Renly may not have been the best king ever, but I just really like Renly.
Same.
I think he is great in his three little episodes that we get him in season two. First of all, he was ready and willing to give us everything we wanted, y'all. He was like ready. He didn't like Littlefinger. He wanted to kill Joffrey. He had a big army.
That's what I
And,
mean. Like he had all the things I want.
and it was yeah, there it is. There's shook. Uh, but I know people, I don't know, I think maybe they find him boring because he wasn't in it as like all that much. But I liked Renly. I also think he had a fun personality. I liked his relationship with Brienne in the quick moments we got. He was about to if he became king, he would have given us our first ever female Knight of the King's Guard because
Yeah,
he
Renly was quite
he was
progressive.
down with it, and obviously I love him and Loras together, and I love him and Marjorie together.
Exactly, 100%.
And if Renly hadn't died, Marjorie wouldn't have had to go over to Joffrey. So
Yeah.
all of it, I don't care. Haters be damned. We're Team Renly.
I think, I mean, honestly, if Stannis hadn't pulled out that crazy magic with the Red Woman, I mean,
Yeah,
Renly would have easily won.
he would have won. Stannis could not have beaten Renly if that shadow demon hadn't come in and
Yeah.
killed him like
A
that.
shadow assassin, basically.
And I almost got Brienne killed for it with that damn shadow demon. So
They just run in and they just see him dead on the ground, and they just see this giant hulking warrior. They figure she had to be the one that did it.
yes, but R.I.P. Renly. I think especially if he had lived for longer, he would have been a really great character. But
Give him a spinoff.
we have him at number 6.
Give Renly the spinoff.
Okay, but I think the controversy will end a little bit as we move into number 5. As
Yeah.
now our top 5 kicks off with Robb Stark at number 5. So, Robb definitely got a lot of development in season 2. At the end of season 1, we were starting to get it. He was winning battles. He was showing he could be a really good leader. And I think season 2 just exemplified that. He was making moves. He was still doing great work as a battle commander, as the King of the North. And obviously was winning up until a certain point where unfortunately Robb's stuff starts to unravel just a little bit as we see throughout season 3. Things start to come apart for Robb, but in season 2 he's making all the right moves. I love that moment when he comes in and intimidates the hell out of Jaime Lannister with Grey Wind.
Oh yeah.
And obviously his relationship with Talisa is great. It's great. It really humanizes Robb. It gives us a lot more insight to him as a person and what he's doing. And yeah, I think he had a great season. So Tyler, what do you have to add about Robb?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to how I feel for the most part about Robb in every aspect. I think he's other than of course one other Stark, I guess, as far as the male Starks go, the ones that are alive, he's the one I like the most because I'm still sad about Ned, but Robb, I think I liked Robb's development in season 2. He seems to be coming into his own. He seems to have a lot of heart behind him, even if his heart and his decision making kind of gets and it gets in the way of things, and it seems to be his downfall in the end. So I liked his relationship with Talisa. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to go too much into detail about anything with them, but yeah, I like Robb Stark.
So Leah says, do you guys think Ned would have approved of Robb and Talisa?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I think he would have. I think he would have been a little bit more. I think he would have put him in his place in the sense that he probably would have told him what he needed to do. I feel like I don't know if Robb would have listened though. I feel like it would have probably been almost the same kind of deal where if Catelyn Catelyn kind of warned him, and then Ned would warn him, and then it would probably be the same.
Yeah. The Catelyn did by freeing Jamie is, yeah, she was giving all of the best advice and she was right, but by freeing Jamie, Rob wouldn't listen to her. So no matter how
Yeah,
right she was, she had kind of betrayed his trust to the point where now he wasn't really taking heed to what she said anymore. Whereas if Ned, I don't think Ned would have approved, because obviously Ned did what was told, and married an arranged marriage. And I think Ned was honor above all and would have said you need to keep your oath.
I
And
also think Ned wouldn't have freed Jamie, to be honest.
no, no, Ned definitely would not have freed Jamie. Um, and Ned also might have been more forceful, but again, I think Catelyn had that weird. She felt the guilt. She knew that she put him in a bad position, so she couldn't push it. Whereas Ned would have been like, "Nah, we can't do this."
No thanks. Yeah.
All right, so coming in at a tie, our final tie for
Oh, thank God.
number 3 and number 4, kicking us off, we have Brienne of Tarth, who it might be a little bit controversial that we have her above Rob. I'm not sure, but I think generally everybody likes Brienne right from the beginning, so it shouldn't be too big of a shock that she's high on our list at least.
Yeah,
But right from the get-go, we both love Brienne. I
absolutely,
mean,
100%.
we are introduced to her literally taking down Loras Tyrell, who is the guy who like beat the mountain in season 1 in a jousting contest. He's one of the best sword fighters in the kingdoms, as we find out, and she's awesome.
Exactly. I mean, that's the best way to sum it up. I mean, how could you not like Brienne, honestly?
Yeah, and I know Tyler particularly loves. She is ready to throw down every time,
Everywhere.
anytime.
She is ready to fight anyone, and and it seems like, and she doesn't lose. I mean, she shoots. I mean, she's ready to go to battle, no matter who it is, whoever comes at her. You know, she's just ready for action, no matter. I got to give it to her for that.
And she is one of the most honorable, loyal people in the show to this point. Obviously, she was highly dedicated to Renly. For we learn later some background story as well as to why she loved Renly so much, but also just as her duty. But then she also had that loyalty to Catelyn once Catelyn kind of helped to get her out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, she didn't die because of freaking Stannis' shadow baby demon.
Yeah,
But
whatever that thing is.
I just loved all of these people who came in. They always tried it with like, "Oh, this woman, you can't be too good," and then she would check them immediately.
No
Lord
matter what.
Karstark, Lord Karstark thought he was gonna get fresh with Catelyn, and Brienne jumped up quick and said, "You better think twice."
Pretty much.
And
Yeah.
she ends the season on the road with Jamie. And
Which ended up being a thing I really enjoy.
yeah, already just in the one episode, in episode 10, is funny and fun, just right off the bat. So, did you have anything else for Brienne in season 2?
Yeah, I think you summed up very well how, how much we enjoy the character. I guess almost retroactively, I can understand why. I'm calling it more so the actress Gwendolyn Christie. I can see why everybody was so angry about how much Captain Phasma sucked in the Star Wars films. Because, I can understand retroactively people were hyped because they saw this Brienne of Tarth character in Game of Thrones, and they see this badass Captain Phasma, the way that she looks, you just imagine she's also going to be this amazing character, and then she's like a big old waste of time for the most part in both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Like if you're gonna face if you're gonna have these two characters together, I feel like Brienne of Tarth would have owned Captain Phasma like immediately. Like it would have not even, no question. I honestly feel like if it was a battle between Captain Phasma and Brienne, like Brienne would have won very almost easily.
Phasma would have been down for.
Honestly, I mean, Captain Phasma couldn't even like beat like Finn. And Finn has, well, I guess he ended up retroactively having Force abilities, but he didn't have his showing Force abilities in their fights.
Yeah. Well, also tied at number 3, we have Arya Stark, our highest ranked Stark character. once again, I think she and Ned was above her in season 1, but they were
I
right
had
by each
Ned
other.
above her at least.
Yeah, so I think she was top 5 though both seasons. Arya
Definitely.
up here, killing it again. And as we talked about with Tywin, I mean, their interactions as a duo were so awesome that I think it definitely helped both of their characters.
100%.
But she also had a lot of awesome interactions with Gendry this season, and that development, as we talked about, she had awesome moments with like getting her list. She was also ready to throw down, even though she's much smaller than Brienne. It's like mini me and the big one, who are very similar in their gusto to throw down at any moment. Um, but she then obviously has some great interactions with Jock and Hagar as well. And over in her side of the world, she seems to be that character who is making everybody around her better as well. Like her interactions with whatever character she's with improves that other character and makes you like them more than you might have otherwise. But yeah, what did you have to add about Arya in season 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered a lot of how I would feel about her as a character. I mean, she's just such a fun character. I mean, she has she has so much personality. She's easily one of the most likable kid character, but especially one of the most likable characters in general in the show. Like, she just has like a fire to her that I really enjoy. No matter what, no matter who she's interacting with, I think she elevates the material. And it's like, it's impressive seeing her kind of go toe to toe with people like Tywin Lannister and kind of like holding her own for the most part. And I think it's just going to continue being that way, and I think she's going to get even better as the series progresses. She kind of like, I guess, because of Brienne being introduced, she's kind of like who I hope she ends. Her and Brienne, I feel like Arya is like the kind of character I hope she ends up being like Brienne, just because Brienne is just like a fierce, independent woman who's just like a warrior. So that's like kind of what I've always wanted. I want to see Arya to end up becoming, just because like they're both really badass females in the show. Like, I mean, they're both two characters that I really enjoy in the show, but I think they're going to continue to be even better in the future.
All right. Well, coming in at number 2, we have Daenerys Targaryen. So,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, we have the same top 2 that we had in season 1. Our characters stayed the same, number 1s and number 2. So, Daenerys Targaryen in season 2. Her storyline was a weird one because she starts out just literally chilling in the desert for like
Yeah.
half of the season.
I think that, and it's funny because of that, because when I thought about it, when I had to do the ranking, I was thinking of thinking back to how like literally like the first few episodes of the season, I thought she was going to be really boring, just because it was kind of just wait around in the desert and hope somebody comes back, otherwise they just die. And then I was like, okay, well, I know this. I doubt that he's going to die out here, but I mean, let's get the ball rolling. But the
Yeah.
last half of season 2 is when she really starts becoming really great in my eyes.
I think the thing that definitely propels Daenerys, I think, is she leaves you on a really high note, because I think we both kind of agreed she's the highlight of the season finale. So it definitely
Hmm.
brings her to the forefront, as she has badass moments in that finale that you're like, okay, yes. Uh, but even before then, she starts to come back into her own. So the first season, we see her go from meek girl who is just being used and abused into like her own person. And then season 2, we see her start to find her footing as more of a leader, as she makes mistakes and has a lot of naive moments in the way she tries to negotiate and handle things. But by the end of the season, she kind of finds her way, learns some lessons, and is back on the right track. Plus, we get more time with them baby dragons, who
Those are
are
always a plus.
awesome. That moment when she is like teaching them to fry their own
I think that was adorable. I must admit, yeah.
she obviously has some ferocious moments this season, though. Oh, most of the early ones don't pan out, saying that if you don't let me through these gates, I'm going to burn your city to the ground when my dragons are big. And then she yells at the Spice King brings out the worst in her. And
That's
then
why I hated the Spice King. I hated that guy.
she yells at him that she'll be taking what's hers with fire and blood.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that moment. I was like, yes, yes, do it.
but but then we get to the final episode where she has those visions of what is potentially to come in the future, and she finds her baby dragons, lights Piet Pre up, and locks Zaran Doxus away, and her and them Dothraki snatch up the loot and hit the road with
Literally,
dragons
they
all
raid the
around.
place. They raid the place and just head off on another journey.
So what did make Daenerys sit at number 2 for you this season?
I think it's like, I mean, definitely the latter half of season two. Like as I already mentioned, she kind of just sat around and just roasted in the sun for the first two episodes. So, but I mean, I'm loving her development so far, as you already alluded to, the fact that she was just like this meek character who kind of didn't have her own, I guess, opinion on anything or her own personality. She kind of just was like a almost like a slave in a sense. I guess she kind of was a slave. She kind of did get sold to the Khal Drogo, but now that she's finding her footing and now she's being this strong, independent character, we're seeing the introduction to the Daenerys Targaryen as like a character that is much more fierce and I guess fiery, no pun intended. So I'm really liking the development so far for her character, and I can understand why, especially someone like Larry, because I know that Larry's always loved Daenerys Targaryen so much, and I understand now why we love the character so much, because I enjoy her in this season and also next season. And it's kind of one of those things, because there's those two characters that I know that Larry loves, and one I absolutely understand 100%, which is Daenerys. And so far, at least, I don't understand the hype for Jon Snow yet. So that's the one I'm really hoping the tides are turning for Jon Snow, because we get a little bit of that next season. But there's still a couple seasons to go, so we'll have to wait and see for that, for both of them, I guess, as well.
Right. Then, if you know me, you know Daenerys as a whole is my number 1. But for season 2, I had her at number 2 as well, because I think the undisputed best character of season 2 is Tyrion Lannister. I mean, I'm rocking the shirt today. I drink and I know things because Tyrion kills it. As the Hand of the King, he is amazing in this role. We talked about him in so many other people's bios, if you will, because he just owns person after person after person,
And I
just
love
like
it.
killing them in King's Landing. And he has such an interesting arc. As the season 1, we all love Tyrion because he's just funny. He's one of the most entertaining characters. Season 2, he maintains that entertaining personality, but then he's actually given a lot more to do within the actual storyline than he was in season 1. And he's awesome. He's amazing. I agree with what Ryan said down here. I think season 4 is Tyrion's best season, but
Well, good to know.
season 2 is right behind as his next best. So Tyler, you've been on that Tyrion hype train since basically right from the beginning. What made you put him as your number 1 in season 2?
I mean, it helped that Ned died, so I couldn't put him higher. So,
He
you
was
know,
number 2 last season, only behind Ned.
yes, I mean that helps, and I knew that inevitably going into this, I had to have a new number one, just because my number one died. But yeah, I think I mean, not Ned, I should say Tyrion. Tyrion definitely is the most interesting out of all of the characters in Game of Thrones. He brings like such personality and life to any scene that he's in, no matter what character is in it. You could put almost any character in Game of Thrones in a scene with him, and he'll somehow find a way to at least liven up the conversation a little bit. And it's funny just because like everybody else, as far as the Lannisters go, like you hate basically, like like there's like I mean, at least at this point in time, season 2,
Yeah.
like you hate like every Lannister except for Tyrion. I feel like Tyrion is like the one Lannister who at least has a personality and an understanding of more than just like his own selfish needs, because like a lot of the Lannisters' needs are kind of like their wants are all about themselves, but at least Tyrion tries to at least have a conscience and a heart when it comes to how he deals with things. You know, as we saw, as he ends up liking Shay and defies his anything that his dad wants when it comes to Shay. You know, he kind of, I like that he does his own thing. I like that he kind of just walks his own walk and doesn't really mind who cares. You know, he just does his thing, and I appreciate that. And Peter Dinklage is also just an amazing in the role.
Killing it. It's so good. Again, Peter Dinklage's best acting, I think, also comes in season 4. So,
well, I'm excited for season 4 then.
I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. There's nothing that happens in as far as we're up to in season 3 that Tyrion's still alive, and we're at episode 9. So,
well, I guess I should also
spoiler alert: he survived.
Well, I guess I should also ask, bring into into what I was saying about Tyrion is, speaking of battles and, life and death in the Battle of Blackwater, he has like, one of those speeches. He has like an amazing speech that gets everybody to go out and actually fight again after Joffrey kind of just bails on his whole army as Stannis' army is, trying to barge their way into King's Landing. And I mean, it was such a great rousing speech that even I was like, hell yeah, let's go to fight these people. And he goes out there and fights with them. He gets his little tiny armor on and actually gets in on the action. And he only stops fighting, the action because he gets sliced across the face because he has to fight these giant people.
Who his sister sent to kill him, by the way. So it was like not even, it was a Lannister army man who sliced him across the face. So poor Tyrion.
Messed up.
And then we see Tyrion just getting no respect. Episode 10, no respect. But
yeah, and he was a great hand of the king. I feel like of the people, I mean, there haven't been too many different hands of the kings in general, but like I feel like he did a great job trying to actually bring something to King's Landing that you don't really see too much. He was trying to weasel out all of the snitches, trying to get the down low, to get the right information as he was like threatening Lancel. I mean, he did a lot of really great stuff in season 2. That's really part of why I think he has to be my number 1.
Yeah, so there it is. Tyrion Lannister is our favorite character from season 2 of Game of Thrones. And he was also our favorite character of season 1 by average, even though none of us actually had him at number 1 on our own personal lists in our ranking, but he was number 2 on all of our lists, so he averaged up to number 1.
I had Ned. As number 1, and he died.
Poor Ned. So we'll see. Can Tyrion make it a 3-peat next season? We shall see. But let us know. I think Leo agrees with us with Tyrion being number 1. I think Ryan as well with his comments as they've been following along. Thank you both so much for dedicating 2 hours of your Sunday evening to our live stream. But everybody who watches this, let us know. Do you agree? Is Tyrion the best character of season 2, or do you think somebody else should have claimed this number 1 spot? Also, is there anybody who could be dead last other than Joffrey? Let us know your ranking of the characters down below. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this ranking so you can watch all of our Game of Thrones reactions. Also, next Sunday, I'm going to be doing a live stream where I compare A Clash of Kings to Season 2 of Game of Thrones. And unlike Season 1, Book 2 varies heavily from Season 2. So there will be a lot more to talk about this time than there was in the first season. But make sure that you also subscribe to and follow Tyler. So Tyler, do you want to let them know where to find you?
Yeah, I mean, if you just search up my name, you'll find my channel where I do reviews, reactions, all that stuff over there. We talk about a lot of different things as, there's a lot of movies and TV and all that stuff going on at the moment. But as far as Twitter and Instagram goes, if you just type in @It's Tyler Calvert, you'll find me on both of those platforms as well.
Perfect. Also, make sure to check out Geekly Goods, my mod, who was awesome. And I'm so appreciative that you were here tonight as well. Subscribe to his channel and show him some love as well. So I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.